I thought I had found forever with Amanda. For 5 years, we built a life that seemed perfect to me, a foundation for our future together. Until she met Derek, her soulmate, who could give her true love in a way I supposedly never could. The shock of her leaving shattered me completely. I never expected she would walk back into my life 2 years later, not to apologize, but to ask me to financially support the children of the man she left me for. If you are watching this video, let me know where you are from in the comments below. Do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe to hear how I handled this unbelievable situation. I met Amanda at a tech conference in Seattle 6 years ago. I was giving a presentation on new programming frameworks, and she was there representing her marketing firm. Our eyes connected across the crowded room during the networking session that followed, and I felt drawn to introduce myself. We clicked instantly, talking for hours about everything from childhood memories to career aspirations. Our first date was at this quirky coffee shop called Analog, where they had vinyl records playing and vintage typewriters as decoration. We arrived at 7 in the evening and were still there when they were closing at midnight. The barista had to politely ask us to leave. I remember walking her to her car and feeling like something significant had begun. After dating for 8 months, we decided to move in together. We found this small one-bedroom apartment that needed some work. The kitchen cabinets were outdated, and the bathroom had this hideous green tile, but we spent weekends fixing it up together. I installed new shelving while she painted the walls. It was during those renovation weekends that I really felt like we were building something lasting. I was working as a mid-level software developer, then putting in extra hours to position myself for advancement. Amanda was climbing the ladder at her marketing firm, taking on bigger clients and more responsibility. We supported each other through late nights, celebrated each other's wins, and provided shoulders to lean on after tough days. We built a solid friend group, too. Every month we hosted a board game night that became something our friends looked forward to. We had summer barbecues on our tiny balcony and created traditions like our annual camping trip to Lake Chelan. We talked about our future constantly. We were saving for a down payment on a house in a neighborhood we loved. Marriage was discussed as an eventuality rather than a possibility. I started researching engagement rings and even asked her best friend for advice on styles Amanda might like. Looking back, I can see the warning signs I missed. Whenever I brought up setting a date for an engagement, Amanda would redirect the conversation. She would say things like, "I am still figuring out my career path," or "We have plenty of time." There were comments about her college friends all settling down that had an edge to them, as if settling was something to avoid. In our 5th year together, something shifted. Amanda started mentioning a new client her firm had landed, a luxury watch company that was revamping their brand image. She began staying late at the office more frequently for meetings with this client. That is when Derek's name started appearing in her stories. Derek, from the client side. Derek, the marketing director. Derek, who had such innovative ideas. I trusted Amanda completely. It never occurred to me that our relationship was in danger. I was secure in what we had built and believed she felt the same way. The changes in Amanda were subtle at first. Date nights we had religiously kept for years suddenly got canceled because of work emergencies. When we did spend time together, she was physically present but mentally elsewhere, constantly checking her phone or bringing up stories about work projects, and inevitably Derek's input on them. I remember this one night clearly. I had prepared her favorite meal, coq au vin, which I had spent hours cooking. She came home 2 hours late, barely touched the food, and spent most of dinner texting. When I asked who she was messaging so intently, she snapped at me for being controlling. That was the first time I felt a real knot of anxiety about our relationship. I tried everything I could think of to reconnect with her. I planned weekend getaways, surprised her with tickets to shows she had mentioned, wanting to see, and even suggested couples counseling. She dismissed the idea of therapy outright, saying, "We do not have problems that serious, Linus. Just been busy with work." Then came that Thursday evening I will never forget. I had come home early to surprise her with flowers. She walked in, looking startled to find me there, then sat me down at our kitchen table, the same one where we had shared thousands of meals and conversations. "Linus, I need to tell you something." She started, not quite meeting my eyes. "I have met someone. I did not mean for it to happen, but it did," and I cannot ignore how I feel." The room seemed to tilt sideways as she continued. "Derek and I have a connection I cannot explain. It is like I have found my other half. What we had was comfortable and nice Linus, but with Derek, I feel alive. It is real passion and true love, something I have never experienced before." Those words, real passion and true love, cut deeper than anything else she said. 5 years of my life reduced to comfortable and nice, as if our relationship had been a moderately pleasant meal, rather than what I thought was the foundation for our entire future. She moved out that weekend, while I was staying at my friend Jake's place, unable to bear watching her pack. When I returned, half our furniture was gone along with all traces of her presence, except for a plant she had forgotten, and a few photos I found under the couch when I was cleaning. Through mutual friends, I learned she had moved directly into Derek's downtown loft. Not even 2 weeks after ending our 5-year relationship, she was living with him. The betrayal of that quick transition felt like being stabbed all over again. 4 months later, I made the mistake of checking her Instagram, which I had been avoiding. There it was, a close-up photo of her hand sporting an enormous diamond ring with the caption, "When you know you know." He is the one I have been waiting for my whole life. Number engaged. Number, true love. I spiraled after that. I stopped going out, declined invitations from friends, and threw myself into work as the only distraction that helped. I lost 15 pounds because I could not stomach more than a few bites of food at a time. Sleep became elusive, and I would lie awake replaying our relationship, wondering where I had gone wrong or what signs I had missed. My apartment, once our shared sanctuary, became a minefield of memories. The corner where her desk had been, the kitchen where we had danced while cooking, even the specific creak in the floorboard by the bathroom that always made her jump. I considered moving, but apartments in Seattle are expensive, and financially it made more sense to stay. I spent an entire weekend removing every remaining trace of Amanda from my space. I took down photos, packed away gifts she had given me, and rearranged furniture to create new walking paths and sightlines. I even switched which side of the bed I slept on, though sleep remained difficult to find. The hardest part was not the logistics of her absence, but the hole left in my daily life. The person I had texted random thoughts to throughout the day for 5 years was gone. The one who knew when I needed space and when I needed company, who understood my obscure programming jokes, who had been my default +1 and travel companion, had chosen someone else. And not just someone else, but supposedly her true love, making our entire relationship feel like a prolonged detour on her path to finding Derek. 3 months after the breakup, I hit my lowest point. I had been working until midnight, came home to my half-empty apartment, and found myself sitting on the kitchen floor at 3 in the morning, staring at a water stain on the ceiling, and wondering if this hollowed-out feeling would ever go away. That is when my phone rang. It was my college roommate Ryan calling from Chicago. He knew better than to ask if he had woken me. Instead, he said, "I had a feeling you needed to talk." I found myself telling him everything, the words pouring out of me until the sky began to lighten outside my window. That conversation became my turning point. Ryan made me promise to do one thing each day that was solely for myself, not for work, not for distraction, but for genuine enjoyment or growth. It seemed like an impossible task at first, since nothing brought me pleasure anymore, but I agreed to try. I started small. A 10-minute walk in the park near my apartment. Trying a new coffee shop instead of ordering delivery. Reading a chapter of a non-technical book before bed. These tiny steps gradually expanded as I began to rediscover parts of myself that existed independently of my relationship with Amanda. At work, I volunteered for a challenging new project that required learning a programming language I had been curious about, but never had time to explore. The long hours and mental challenge gave me less time to ruminate, and the sense of accomplishment when I solved difficult problems began to rebuild my shattered confidence. My apartment needed to feel like mine alone, not a museum of what had been. I repainted the walls, replacing the soft beige Amanda had chosen with a cool blue that I had always preferred. I rearranged the furniture, bought new bedding, and hung art that reflected my taste rather than our compromise aesthetic. Each change helped me reclaim the space, and by extension, my life. With Ryan's encouragement, I forced myself to be social again. I joined a hiking group that met on Saturday mornings, pushing myself up mountain trails until my muscles burned and my mind cleared. I signed up for cooking classes, something I had always enjoyed, but had let slide. In these new environments, I was just Linus, not half of Linus and Amanda. And that freedom slowly began to heal me. I made a conscious decision to establish strict digital boundaries. I blocked Amanda on all social media platforms, deleted her number from my phone, and asked mutual friends not to give me updates about her life. Some friends thought I was being harsh, but I knew that any information about her and Derek would only reopen wounds that were finally beginning to close. The mental shift from victim to survivor happened gradually. My therapist, whom I started seeing weekly, helped me understand that Amanda's choices reflected her character, not my worth. The narrative in my head slowly transformed from, "What did I do wrong?" to, "I deserved better than someone who could discard our relationship so easily." After about a year, I felt ready to date again. I was cautious, moving slowly, transparent about my past, without letting it dominate new connections. I met a few women who helped me remember that chemistry and connection were still possible, even if none of those relationships became serious. Professionally, I thrived during this period of intense focus. My work on that challenging project earned me a significant promotion and a substantial raise. I started investing more aggressively, building financial security that gave me options I had not had before. I took a 2-week solo trip to Japan, something Amanda had never been interested in, but I had always wanted to do. 18 months after the breakup, I realized I had gone an entire day without thinking about Amanda. It was such a small victory that no one else would understand its significance, but to me, it represented enormous progress. The acute pain had faded to an occasional dull ache that appeared less and less frequently. I no longer defined my life in terms of before and after Amanda. I had built something new that was entirely mine, a life that reflected my values, interests, and goals. I had made peace with the past without letting it define my future. I was not just surviving, I was flourishing in ways I might never have discovered had we stayed together. The Monday morning Amanda reappeared in my life started like any other. I was at my desk by 8:30, coffee in hand, reviewing code for a project deadline later that week. My assistant messaged to say someone was asking for me in the lobby, refusing to make an appointment or state their business. When I walked into the reception area, Amanda was standing by the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. 2 years had passed, but I would have recognized her anywhere. She had lost weight. Her usually perfectly styled hair was pulled back in a hasty ponytail, and the confident posture I remembered had been replaced by something more tense, more fragile. "Linus," she said when she saw me, smiling as if we were old friends who had simply lost touch. "You look great. The promotion must be treating you well." I was too stunned to respond immediately. How did she know I had been promoted? Why was she here? What could she possibly want after all this time? "Can we talk somewhere private?" she asked, glancing at the receptionist who was making no effort to hide her curiosity. Against my better judgment, I led her to a small conference room and closed the door. For a moment, we just looked at each other across the table, two people who had once shared everything and were now complete strangers. "So, married life must be treating you well," I finally said, noticing the large diamond ring, now accompanied by a wedding band. She brightened. "Yes, Derek and I got married last summer. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends." She paused, then added, "We have a house in Ballard now with the kids." "Kids?" I asked, surprised. That was fast. She laughed, though it sounded forced. "Oh, not ours. Derek has 3 children from his previous marriage. They live with us full-time now. Noah is 12, Emma is 9, and Tyler is 7. I nodded, waiting for her to explain why she was sitting in my office after 2 years of silence. She filled the awkward pause with details about the children, their personalities, their interests, their academic achievements. I listened politely while wondering when she would get to the point. "They are really bright kids," she said, her voice taking on a rehearsed quality. "Especially Noah. He tested into the gifted program, but the public school only offers limited resources. We have been looking at Westridge Academy for him. It is perfect for his needs." But she hesitated, looking down at her hands. "The tuition, is pretty steep. And then I understood why she was here. We are struggling a bit financially right now, she continued, not meeting my eyes. With 3 kids, the mortgage and everything else, it is a lot to handle. I remember you always said education was so important, and I thought maybe you might be willing to help with Noah's tuition. Just until Derek gets back on his feet. I sat there utterly stunned by her audacity. 2 years of no contact, and she had walked into my workplace to ask me to pay for her stepson's private school tuition. You must be doing well, she pressed on, gesturing around at the sleek conference room. And it is not like you have children to support. You always said you wanted to make a difference in a child's life. I had said that, but in the context of our future children, the family we had planned to have together before she left me for Derek and his ready-made family. It is just that Derek lost his position at Kronos when the company restructured, and we are facing some serious financial challenges, she admitted, her voice dropping. We might even lose the house if things do not turn around soon. I struggled to process what was happening. The woman who had shattered my heart and walked away without a backward glance was now sitting across from me, asking me to financially support the family she had chosen over our relationship. The kids do not deserve to suffer because of adult problems, she said, a calculated appeal to sympathy. You always had such a big heart, Linus. I know you would want to help if you could. That was when I realized she had practiced this speech, had strategized the best way to manipulate me into opening my wallet. She was using our history, my values, and my supposed financial security as leverage, as if I owed something to the family she had formed after discarding me. It would not have to be a lot, she added quickly, even a few thousand to get us through the next few months. Or maybe you could co-sign a loan. I have been thinking about all the possible solutions. I wonder, I said slowly, finding my voice at last. Did Derek suggest you come see me? She flushed slightly. We discussed all our options, of course. He thought you might be understanding given our history. Understanding. The word hung in the air between us. What exactly should I understand, Amanda? That you left me for your true love, but now need my money to support his children. The look on Amanda's face shifted from hopeful to indignant, so quickly it was almost comical. I need you to understand that this is about innocent children, not about our past, she said, her voice taking on an edge. I recognized from our worst arguments. I will not be giving you money for Derek's children, I said firmly. Not now, not ever. She stared at me in genuine disbelief, as if my refusal was completely unexpected. You would punish innocent children because you are still bitter about our relationship ending. That is really petty, Linus. This is not about punishment or bitterness, I replied, keeping my voice calm, despite the anger building inside me. This is about boundaries and responsibility. Derek's children are his responsibility, and yours, since you chose to marry him. Not mine. She leaned forward, her voice rising. You are being completely unreasonable. You have the means to help but are choosing not to out of spite. I shook my head. This has nothing to do with spite. You and Derek made your choices. Now you live with the consequences of those choices, including the financial ones. That is when she lost what remained of her composure. So this is your revenge, is it not? I found true love, and you cannot stand that I am happy. So you will watch us struggle when you could easily help. People at nearby desks were starting to look our way through the glass walls of the conference room. I lowered my voice, hoping she would follow suit. Amanda, I wish you and Derek and the kids nothing but happiness. But I am not responsible for funding that happiness. You are punishing me for following my heart, she insisted, her voice getting louder rather than quieter. What was I supposed to do? Stay with you forever when I knew Derek was my soulmate? My colleague Jared knocked on the door and poked his head in. Everything okay in here, Linus? He asked, giving Amanda a pointed look. Before I could answer, Amanda turned to him. Did you know Linus is refusing to help innocent children get a proper education because of a personal grudge against their stepmother? Jared, who knew the basics of my history with Amanda, raised his eyebrows. Maybe this conversation should happen somewhere else, he suggested diplomatically. We are almost finished, I assured him, grateful for the interruption that helped me regain my composure. After Jared left, Amanda tried a different approach. Remember all those years we shared, all the dreams we had. I know deep down you are a good person, Linus. You would not want to see kids suffering when you could prevent it. The manipulation was so transparent it almost made me laugh. Your husband's employment situation and his children's education are not my concern, I said firmly. I think you should go. Her face hardened. Derek said you would be an easy mark. He said you were always too nice for your own good. Guess he was wrong about that. That admission told me everything I needed to know. This was not a desperate mother concerned about her stepchildren's welfare. This was a calculated attempt to exploit a past relationship for financial gain. Easy mark, I repeated, standing up. I think we are done here. Please leave before I call security. Everyone will know how cruel you are being, she threatened, making no move to go. I will make sure all our friends know how you turned your back on children in need. Feel free to tell them whatever you want, I said, opening the door. Our mutual friends know me well enough to understand the situation. She remained seated, clearly unprepared for my unwavering refusal. I can see now why I had to leave you, she said bitterly. You are selfish and petty. Derek may have his flaws, but at least he understands what it means to truly love someone. That was when I pressed the security call button under the conference table. Within minutes, 2 security officers arrived to escort Amanda from the building. As they led her away, she continued making a scene loud enough for the entire office to hear. After she was gone, I returned to my desk, shaking with adrenaline and suppressed rage. My coworkers were too professional to ask direct questions, but I could feel their curious glances. Jared stopped by later to check on me, offering to take me for a drink after work if I needed to talk. His simple kindness nearly broke the composure I had been struggling to maintain. The weeks following Amanda's ambush were emotionally turbulent. Despite knowing I had made the right decision, her visit had reopened wounds I thought had long healed. I found myself replaying our conversation, questioning whether I had been too harsh, wondering if I should have offered some token amount to help the children, who were, as she had emphasized repeatedly, innocent in this situation. I called Ryan, who had talked me through the original breakup. His response was immediate and unequivocal. She is manipulating you, he said flatly. Those kids are not your responsibility. Their parents made choices that led to this situation. You did not. I spoke with my therapist in an emergency session, who helped me see that my momentary doubt was a conditioned response to Amanda's skilled manipulation, not a genuine moral concern. If you want to help children in need, she suggested, there are many ways to do that without getting entangled in your ex's financial problems. That conversation sparked an idea that ultimately helped me process the entire situation. I researched local educational charities and found a program that provided STEM education opportunities for underprivileged children. I made a substantial donation in honor of my late grandfather, who had encouraged my own interest in technology. This act of generosity, directed where it was truly needed, rather than where Amanda had tried to direct it, felt healing in a way I had not anticipated. Meanwhile, Amanda's promised campaign to turn friends against me never materialized in the way she had threatened. I learned from our mutual friend Taylor that Amanda and Derek had approached several people in our old social circle for loans before coming to me. No one had been willing to get involved, which explained why she had turned to me as a last resort. Taylor also revealed something that explained Amanda's desperation. Derek had lost his job not due to corporate restructuring as she had claimed, but because of inappropriate behavior at work functions. He had been unemployed for over 6 months, with Amanda supporting the entire household on her marketing salary, which was being stretched far beyond its limits. 2 weeks after her visit to my office, I received a string of text messages from Amanda, alternating between apologies and renewed requests. I did not respond to any of them, but saved them in case I needed documentation of her persistent contact. When the messages continued for several days, becoming increasingly demanding, I consulted a lawyer who helped me draft a cease and desist letter. The legal warning worked. The direct messages stopped, though I occasionally heard through mutual connections that Amanda and Derek were still struggling financially. They eventually had to sell their house in Ballard and move to a smaller place in a less expensive suburb. Derek finally found work, though, at a significantly lower position than he had held before. Through this ordeal, I discovered how much I had truly healed from our breakup. 2 years earlier, Amanda's reappearance in my life would have devastated me. Now, while unpleasant, it was merely a disruption that I could handle with confidence and clarity. I had built a life I was proud of, one that reflected my values and priorities. I had meaningful work, true friends, and the self-respect to maintain healthy boundaries. The most unexpected outcome was the complete freedom I felt afterward. Any lingering attachment, any what-ifs that might have remained subconsciously, were completely erased by the interaction. I saw clearly who Amanda had become, or perhaps who she had always been beneath the surface. Either way, I was grateful that our paths had diverged when they did. About 6 months after the confrontation, Amanda reached out to Taylor with a message for me. She wanted to apologize properly, she said. She had been under tremendous stress and had not handled things well. She hoped I could find it in my heart to forgive her. I considered whether to respond at all, but ultimately decided to send a brief message through Taylor. I accept your apology, Amanda. I hope things improve for you and your family. I wish you well, but I think it is best that we have no further contact. That was the last communication between us, and I was finally at peace with the entire chapter of my life that had included her. A year has now passed since that confrontation in my office. In that time, I have come to appreciate the importance of boundaries in all my relationships. I have learned that true compassion sometimes means saying no, and that taking care of myself is not selfish but necessary. I understand now that someone else's idea of true love does not invalidate what was real and meaningful to me. Most importantly, I have discovered that we cannot be manipulated without our consent. We always have the choice to stand firm in our truth, even when others try to rewrite our story to serve their needs. Real love, whether romantic, familial, or self-love, does not come at someone else's expense. It does not demand sacrifices that violate your integrity or exploit your kindness. Have you ever had someone from your past return with unexpected demands? What boundaries have you had to set to protect your peace and progress? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming challenges and finding strength in difficult situations. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth is not determined by those who failed to recognize it.